Okay, welcome to my nightmare. I'm going to try and do a major service on my engine, even though I'm pretty clueless about what I'm doing. I've already had a couple surprises. I'll just getting the engine out of the car took a lot longer than expected, but it's out. Who knows if I'll ever get it in again. Took off the Allen head bolts, pulled my cover off here. First surprise were these little jobbies, which I did not know were in there. Nobody's ever mentioned them. Apparently they hang up top here and right against the belt for some reason, although these are a little worn looking and there's some grooves on the belt, so I'm not sure they're doing me any favors here. So, surprise number one. Surprise number two, getting the bolt off of the crank here. It's a son of a bitch. I'm putting my trusty cheapo pneumatic wrench on it and got nowhere. I read online about using heat and the pneumatic gun and still got nowhere, so finally I went to Sears and bought myself a half-inch composite impact wrench that you could tell when you hit the button it really cranks out the torque. It's not very big, but boy, it really puts out the torque. So between my it's like $190 for the damn wrench, but between that and heat on the bolt, and it is a 36 millimeter socket, so between the heat, the new impact wrench, and my 36 millimeter thing, that actually came off. Surprise number three is that on the drive wheel here for the cam belt, it's not a normal bolt. It's ring gear, which means you need a special wrench. But being the cheap bastard, not wanting to waste time, I actually bought myself a it's a 5/16 socket, and with my handy dandy angle grinder and cutting wheel, I cut 4 pins on it. I initially tried doing the same thing with a piece of good steel pipe, but the minute the pins on the pipe went in and did the old impact wrench, it just bent the pins. But this it's a Craftsman 5/16 socket, and these pins actually did very well. So make sure you get the one with the 12 edges in it, because that'll give you a good reference for getting the 90 degree and 90 degrees. And then it just slipped right on and came right off. Okay, I've marked my spark plug leads, so now I'm going to pull those out and then pull out the plugs. Okay, spark plugs are all out, and I'm just going around loosening the 10 millimeter nuts here for the cam cover. Okay, cover is off, but there's always more to the puzzle than you expect. I actually loosened this on the back here. This is the sensor. I loosened that and backed it off a little bit. You have to take a couple 8 millimeter bolts off, take the cover off, then inside there's a couple of Allen screws that you have to loosen up and back that back. And then there's a cover at the end of the other camshaft down here that I took off, and that made life a lot easier. I had a couple upholstery tools made out of plastic that are pretty good for prying the old camshaft cover off without destroying things. The other thing, there is a fuel hose that attaches down here, and that needed to come off for clearance, but the cover is now off and we're ready to play. Okay, this is my half-assed TDC. Put the old wrench on the crankshaft and cranked it around and held my hand over the first spark plug hole, and once I started feeling compression, pulled the old hand away and got my very half-assed piece of bike wire housing, stuffed it down the hole and kept cranking on the crankshaft, and I could feel the wire coming out, coming out, coming out, and then when it felt like it stopped coming out, I looked at my cams, and ooh, you probably can't see this for hell, but the marks line up very nicely for this camshaft, and it's even darker down here, but believe it or not, they're lining up the mark on the camshaft and on the bearing holder. So that's got to be top dead center. Okay, with the cam markers lined up down here at the crankshaft, you probably can just barely see there's the notch for top dead center for the crankshaft lining up with the cam drive belt wheel. I'm also going to point out, since I'm about to remove the other cam cover, that with all the little bolts and washers, it's better to stuff a little paper towel in the old spark plug holes just to make sure nothing goes down into the cylinder that I don't want to. Another trick for what it's worth, once you pull all these little millions of bolts off, there's billions of little washers, and I find the old magnetic pickup does a pretty good job of pulling up so you're not sitting there with your fingernails trying to pry them up. So it does save a little bit of time. Just as a reminder, on the end of the camshaft covers there are two plates, and the plates and the gaskets will actually hold the cam cover down, so you've got to clear things up back there, and I've taken this one nut off and now the whole thing will come up. Okay, here we are on the driver's side, and once again, maybe you can or can't see, timing marks are lined up on that cam, and believe it or not, on this cam too. Kind of hard to see, but they are. So timing is correct and everything's set. Someone cleverly talked about locking your cams in place once you're sure your timing's right with pieces of cardboard. So I pulled the cam little cover thing off here, got a piece of cardboard, stuck it over the bearing. I'm going to put a piece of red tape just to remind me so I'm not stupid enough to forget that I have a piece of cardboard in there, and cover the whole thing up, put the screws back on, and hopefully that will keep my cams right where they should be.